You're listening to The Alex Pierson Show.
It is great to have you back on this, what is turning out to be always a busy Friday, right? Busy Friday. We could be getting more news later this afternoon from the White House because they've decided to now pick on softwood lumber and our dairy farmers. And so we could be looking at up to 250% tariffs, not 25. Oh, no, now we're getting into the real juicy numbers. Every day's a new day in this government. And there's really no area that is not going to be impacted. So I was really surprised then to see this. But the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs are now warning that fire departments across this country are going to struggle to be able to buy the equipment needed for this year's fire season, which, if I'm not mistaken, starts almost like now, or if not already in some areas. But they need to continue to buy the best equipment. They need to be able to, replace equipment. And so they need to be able to buy it, and they got a budget. And when you tariff stuff, it puts all that stuff in risk. And so what they need is to have the fire and safety equipment be placed on a remission list, meaning they need the government to relieve taxes on all this equipment that they have no choice but to buy so they can off-balance the cost, or they just won't be able to buy what they need, which in a fire season that gets increasingly hotter and hotter might be a problem. Let me bring in Ken McMullen. He is the president of the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs. Chief, great to have you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show.
It did not dawn on me that this would be even, and you don't think for like fire, police and all the emergency services, everything's impacted. And so, what are you up against as far as buying equipment, and where are you limited where you can buy it in the United States?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's fair to say that the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs fully supports Team Canada, and we will do everything we can to continue to support the Canadian market. The challenge faced with the Canadian Fire Service is that between 80 and 90% of all of our equipment, all of our personal protective equipment, and of course the large vehicles that we use in our fleet, all come out of the United States.
I didn't know that.
We were facing economic challenges prior to any of this conversations around the tariffs. And so adding an additional tariff onto any of this equipment is absolutely dire within our communities.
All right. And so, look, let's talk about something as simple as a fire truck, right? We've got them. They do need to be replaced. They are taken very good care of. I didn't realize that those would have been all sourced out of the United States. Is that because they do it right and they're the only ones that make this? Is there another source you can turn to?
There is certainly wonderful Canadian manufacturers of fire apparatus, but they just hold such a very, very small portion of the market. And that's just comes with the reality of supply and demand. And the manufacturers out of the United States hold a majority of the market share within fire apparatus in Canada. And it's not just the apparatus, it's the hose, it's the nozzles,
right.
It's all of those tools that we have on this apparatus, the jaws of life. Hydraulic cutters and spreaders, all of that comes out of the United States.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, and is this something that you buy in bulk for all sort? How? I don't know what your procurement is like. Every fire hall is going to have different needs, certainly urban versus rural. But is it something you buy in bulk, or do you guys all deal in different jurisdictions on your own?
Yeah, you're exactly correct, and they're all individual type purchases. I know that there are some municipalities that are trying to partner and get bulk purchases so that they get 2 or 3 from a rural community. I'll remind you that this country is protected by 126,000 firefighters, 3,200 fire departments, and there's a lot of things that we do really, really well, and there's a lot of things that we have some challenges on. And purchasing of apparatus is probably one of those things that when it comes to bulk purchasing or buying more than one piece of equipment at a time, primarily each department does it on their own, and they're doing it based on their own needs. And a piece of equipment in rural Alberta or rural Ontario may not be used the same as downtown Toronto, so the replacement of those schedules might be completely different.
Yeah, like up in the rural areas, you need a little pool, right? You know, if you've got a farm, I mean, they don't have a water hookup. So there are a lot of different needs, but procurement has been such a tough issue for this country. And we've never, whether it's fire or military, it's very difficult for us to be able to bulk and and, put it all over the country where it's needed. But do you have any idea how much is purchased and how much won't be purchased? Like, are you telling us, and are you concerned that you won't be able to have the proper equipment if these taxes are not, absorbed by the government or taken off your hands? Will you be short?
Certainly. Let me put it this way, and the data shows municipalities have been budgeting in order to replace fire trucks for years, but we do that based on what we perceive as a 1 to 2, maybe a 3% cost of inflation. Prior to the tariffs, we were seeing 30% cost of inflation already before the issues of the tariffs came on. And so what used to be an $800,000 fire truck in our community. I
was going to ask, how much is a fire truck? Now I know. Is it $800,000?
It used to be $800,000. Now
how much is
it?
it?
$1 million, about $1.3 million. And we have municipalities that literally today, have a fire truck sitting in a factory in the United States, and they've been told that if the tariffs go through, there's an additional $300,000 added to that.
Ooh.
Our municipalities, we're not prepared for that. We don't have the ability to go back and ask council for another $300,000. It's just ridiculous, but it's what we're going to face.
All right. And so, okay, you've got $1 million machine and you do have to replace it. How often are you replacing them? Like, what's the lifespan? And in saying that, it's like one tiny part of the equipment you actually need because there's so many other things. But, how often would you have to replace a piece of machinery like that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So the standards have us so that our frontline apparatus is between 15 and 20 years of frontline use, meaning that it's the first out apparatus. Then it can be put into a second string, or it can be used in training or other aspects. But about 15 to 20 years, you have to replace that apparatus. And let's think about, most municipalities don't just have one. You're going to have different types. You're going to have some that carry water. You're going to have some that we use for our vehicle extrication equipment. Mm-hmm. In rural areas, you're going to have some that just carry water. And then, you want to start talking high rises. Now you're in the $2 million mark.
Boy, oh boy. And again, so we're talking because you, like every other business, and these are the things that we're learning of how integrated we are. It's not like we can live without fire equipment. We just can't. We're going into the fire season. So what does this year look like? And do you get the sense that the government's going to do this? Because it won't just be you that they have to do this for, right? Like, there will be other emergency services going through the same thing all across this country. And it's just, when you say $300,000 extra just for one truck, when you actually think about how much money across, it's massive, the amount.
It is in the hundreds of millions of dollars if this was all to play itself out. And so a couple of things. I think that I've been on your program before, and we've talked about the value of the creation of a national fire administration. Yeah. And so why am I bringing that up again today? Well, I'm bringing it up again today because this is yet another reason why we as the fire service need to have a voice in Ottawa at the federal level to talk about the impacts of retaliatory tariffs or anything as it pertains to fire. And when we've been on your show before, we've talked about the introduction of lithium-ion batteries and all of the uses. We've talked about fireworks and hazmat, as you said in your introduction. All of these are components that have an impact on where can the fire chiefs have a voice within federal government. We're probably waiting in anticipation, like everybody else, of what's going to happen on Sunday. Mm-hmm. We're waiting to see what's going to happen on Monday and Tuesday. And luckily for us, we come to the table with pragmatic approach and not a political approach. And what I mean by that is we're willing to work with any government that's willing to work with us, and we believe that we've got the data that they need to make informed, proper decisions. But this one on the tariffs is really out in left field that is catching us all off guard. Okay,
I am really out of time, so just quickly, is there a date that you have to have your stuff ordered?
No, they're always the challenge is, and I'll end this by saying it takes anywhere from 1 year to 4 years to get it from purchase planning through to delivery.
Boy, oh boy, not a small problem. Keep us in touch with us, Ken, and hopefully we can get the word out. But I appreciate you giving us some context.
As always, thank you to all you and your listeners, and stay safe.
You as well. Ken McMullen with the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs.